everyone and welcome to a reading wrap up, finally. It's not a weekly, it's not monthly, I don't know how long it's been since I did a reading wrap up, but I'm finally back into reading again, and so here we are. I've got 4 books to talk about today, so let's get on with it. The first book I want to talk to you about today is The Witchfinder Sister by Beth Underdown. I've actually done a full review of this, so I'll leave that link down below, so I won't talk about this too much, but basically this is a historical fiction based around Matthew Hopkins, who was basically a terrible man, basically. Back around sort of 1645, he went around and got loads of women killed, basically. He sort of announced them as witches, and it's over hundreds of women that he got killed. And I found this a really interesting topic. I did a lot of reading around beforehand and found it really interesting. But then when it actually came to reading the book, I didn't enjoy it an awful lot. I received it from the publisher via NetGalley, and so I really felt obliged to try and plod on with it. So I wasn't enjoying it. Well, I started off enjoying it. Let's be truthful, I did start off honestly enjoying it. And as it went on, I just feel like the author couldn't keep the atmosphere, keep the pace. The pace just really dropped. The pace was almost non-existent in places. So I was really plodding along with it. I got to about 50–60% and I was really struggling at that point. So I decided to skim read. And at 75%, I managed to do something which I never ever really managed to do, and that was to just DNF it. So I DNF'd it at 75%. So maybe it got amazing in the last 25% and I missed out, but I don't feel like I did. So sadly, I actually gave this book 1 star. Parts of the beginning bit I felt maybe justified a 2 star, but if I didn't finish it, then it speaks volumes to me. I almost never DNF books. So yeah, 1 star sadly. So the next book I want to talk to you about is The Killer on the Wall by Emma Kavanagh. And I also received a copy of this from the publisher via NetGalley. I gave this 4 stars. Now I had a really opposite sort of experience reading this to what I did the previous book mentioned, because I didn't enjoy maybe the first 20% of this book. Well, didn't enjoy isn't quite the correct way of saying it. I was intrigued and it kept me interested, hence why I kept going, but I felt like it was quite slow at the beginning. I mean, like, it packed a punch. The very first chapter really packed a punch. But this one, just as I read further and further, it hooked me in more and more and more, and it was a perfect psychological thriller. So it's set in a small sort of village or town atmosphere where everyone knows absolutely everyone. And in the past, like 25 years before this book is set, there'd been a killer on the wall, which was a guy who had gone around killing people and leaving their bodies on against Hadrian's wall. And so they think that they've arrested the correct guy and everything, but then 25 years on, the killings start again. And so everyone's a bit like, there's a copycat. And you don't know what's going on, you don't know who to trust. The trust issues in this book sent me crazy. I was suspecting people left, right and centre. Now, one of my main suspicions from quite early on is someone who I then suspected for the rest of the book more and more and more as things went on, and that guess did turn out to be right. But all the same, that didn't take away from my experience. I absolutely adored this book. It is set from multiple perspectives, and I felt that the author did a fantastic job. I can't wait to check out more by this author, and if you're looking for a psychological thriller with multiple perspectives that is set in a sort of small town and small English town, then this might be the one for you to pick up. The next book I want to talk to you about is This Impossible Light, and this is by Lily Myers. Again, this is another one that I got from the publisher via NetGalley. I've been reading a lot of NetGalley books recently, trying to catch back up after my little reading slump, and I really enjoyed this one too. And I actually gave this one 5 stars. 5 whole stars. I really enjoyed it. Again, this one started off a little bit slower, but then as I got into it more and more, it really picked up. Now, this has been compared to works by the likes of Ellen Hopkins because it is written in verse, and some reviews thought that that didn't work out so well. I personally really enjoyed it, but I've never read an Ellen Hopkins book, so I don't know how this compares. I'm unable to compare it and say whether it is better or worse. But I really enjoyed the experience. I thought it really worked for the story. And this book sort of talks about eating disorders, and that's actually a major trigger If you have ever suffered from eating disorder, I don't know how you would get on with this book. I would definitely exercise caution before picking it up, simply because I personally thought that it perhaps was a little bit heavy. I've never read a book about eating disorders, especially not to this sort of extent, and I'm not sure how it would compare to other books about eating disorders, but it is a really, really powerful book. You also tackle family issues such as divorce in this book. And like I said, I thought that it was a really, really, really strong book. And I just found it really thought-provoking as much as anything. Like, I felt like my eyes had been opened to people experiencing eating disorders and how people can struggle to get through life because of their problems at home, and it just made me look at things in a whole new light. And I don't want to say an awful lot more than that, because again, I will be doing a full review for this and I will leave that links down below when I do it. But this book isn't out for a little while yet anyway, so you'll have to wait a while for that, as this book is due out in a couple of weeks now, just over a couple of weeks, just under 3 weeks. This is out on the 6th of June. And the final book I want to talk to you about today is an audiobook that I've been listening to for a heck of a long time, and that is The Girl in the Spider's Web, which is the 4th book in the Millennium series, which was originally, the first three books were done by Stieg Larsson, and sadly he passed away before he could do any more. He'd got plans aplenty, and so another guy called David Lagercrantz actually picked it up and continued the work, and there is going to be a 5th book out soon too. And I actually gave this book 2 stars, and I'm really not sure whether that's just an accurate representation of how the book actually is. I listened to this on audio, and I listened to it for far too long. It took me far too long to get through this book because I was trying to listen to it while I was in a reading slump, so I feel like that definitely had an impact on my experience. On the other hand, you also have the fact of these books have always been, it doesn't matter who wrote them, they've always been quite dense in places and long and difficult to get through at times. I mean, the first 3 books definitely weren't always an easy ride, and so I feel like maybe listening to this on audio wasn't the best experience for it. So I will be giving it a reread at some point in physical copy, and I will see how I get on with that. But overall, I felt like the characters didn't feel truly like themselves, but at the same time, the experience of listening rather than reading, I don't know how that may have affected. I read the first 3 books via physical copies, and so yeah, I'd like to reread this 4th one to get a proper, definite opinion of how I actually feel about it. But I found the story quite interesting at times. I thought the author did a good job at trying to continue on the series. And as I said, I will be continuing on with the series anyway. I want to know more. I've got a real soft spot for Lisbeth Salander. If you've never read the first book, I think the first book is just fantastic, and you definitely need to check that out. Again, it's very dense at times, it's got slow parts, but it's a real well done whodunit kind of mystery, the first book. But the rest of the series doesn't really go in that way. The rest of the series gets linked more to Lisbeth and her life and what's going on around it, and there's so much political intrigue in this, and it's just all connected, and it's actually a really good series for the most part. Like I said, really dense, but I highly recommend it all the same. So that is all I have read over the last month or so. I don't know how long it's been. I'm definitely starting to really get back into the swing of reading. I can't wait to just cuddle up tonight with Night Film. I've not really been picking this up. I feel like I've been reading this literally forever. I think I started in October last year, but I've spent a lot of this year in a horrific reading slump, and I was really liking this book, and I didn't want to ruin my experience of this with the reading slump. So I've been putting this off for a rainy day. Today's a really rainy day, so hopefully the lighting isn't too bad. So what better rainy, snuggly evening than to read this? So that is on tonight's agenda. I won't be finishing it because there's still quite a bit to go, but I'm hoping to do a good chunk of this tonight. I'm also currently reading a NetGalley book, and that is Den of Shadows by Christopher Byford, and I'm not sure how I totally feel about this one yet. This is a kind of weirdish fantasy, and it's set on a train. They've sort of got a gambler's den going on, and it's got a bit of a western feel to it, and at times it feels quite slow, but it's not slow in a boring way. It's just, I thought this was going to be a quick read, basically. I was looking for a quick read. It said on Goodreads that it's 176 pages, and so I was like, yeah, okay. And honestly, like, these are supposed 176 pages are predicted on my Kindle to take over 7 hours to read. I've dented that quite a bit. I'm now at about 5 hours left to go, basically, and I'm thinking, what kind of size font would this expect to be for 176 pages? But I am enjoying it for the most part. I feel like there's some really interesting characters in this, so hopefully over the next week or so I'll get this one finished and I'll be able to get a review up for you soon. Finally, my current audiobook I am just absolutely in love with. I'm currently listening to 3 Wishes by Leanne Moriarty, and it's the second book I've picked up by her. I read The Husband's Secret a good couple of years ago now, and I loved that. I absolutely loved it. And I'm really enjoying this one too. This one is about triplets and all the sort of mayhem that their lives unfold in, what with their husbands and their experiences and their boyfriends and their family and their parents' divorce. And it's just, I can see why some people don't like this one quite so much as some of their other work, because it is a bit crazy in terms of like the ridiculousness of everything that these sisters manage to go through, and it gets a bit boring. It's almost like, some people might think that it's like really kind of schoolgirl, we are just a mess kind of thing, even though these ladies are in their 30s, their early 30s. It's just all a bit like bitchy schoolgirl stuff at times, but I'm actually really enjoying it. It's just a breath of fresh air. The audiobook narrator is absolutely fantastic. I was worried that I wouldn't enjoy the audiobook at first, because this story jumps in perspective a little bit at times, and I can't always tell at first at the beginning of a chapter what's going on, but then it all becomes clear. I've started adjusting to it, and I'm really enjoying the narrator. I feel like she really suits the people who she is, whose voices she is portraying, and I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. I think this might end up being my favourite audiobook possibly ever. That might be a bit far, but definitely up there as one of my favourite audiobooks that I've listened to so far. And I'm just under halfway on this one, so I can't wait to finish it. But again, getting a chance to sit and just listen to an audiobook isn't always that easy. But I've been putting it on every chance I can get, even if it's just 5 minutes here or 5 minutes there. I just can't get enough of this book. So that is everything going on with me right now on my reading. What are you reading? What have you currently read recently? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you've read any of these books and you want to talk to them about me in the comments, feel free to do so. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe by clicking the image of me just there if you want to see more book reviews and other bookish content from me, and I will see you soon. Bye bye!